Osgood Perkins is the mastermind behind some of the most visually stunning and emotionally disturbing horror movies of the last 10 years. As the son of genre icon Anthony Perkins, it's not surprising that Oz has made a name for himself in the horror space as well. After the success of Longlegs and with his newest film, The Monkey, already on the way, coming February 2025, I thought I would go ahead and rank Perkins's movies so far. But welcome back, creepy peeps. Let's talk about Osgood Perkins. He has quickly become one of my favorite horror directors with his super dark and deeply disturbing movies. The atmosphere of his movies are usually quite heavy and honestly fucked up. And I really enjoy this brand of fucked up shit. And the feeling I usually get from watching his movies is like a lingering cloud of darkness. They stay with me long after the credits roll, and most of his movies have a lot of rewatch value actually. And honestly, I have to say before we start ranking these movies was really hard. So just know that no matter what position these movies fall in, it was really close. So we're gonna start with last place. For me is Gretel and Hansel, which takes a classic fairy tale and gives it a dark twist. The story follows Gretel and Hansel, who are turned out by their mother. They encounter an old woman in the woods that gives them food and shelter, but Gretel soon discovers that the woman is a witch and she intends to eat them to maintain her powers. I really loved the dark take on an otherwise simple, still dark, but simple story. I especially love taking this idea of like a fairy tale staple, the witch in the woods, and making that into almost like a mantle that needs to be kept up. Gretel, having powers of her own and deciding to stay in the woods, upholds society's fear of powerful women. In most stories, they are regarded as monsters, something to be feared. And I feel like Perkins represents that visually really well, especially at the end when you see Gretel's hands starting to turn black like the witch's. That, and it tickles me to no end that people, mostly men, let's be honest, got so mad before this movie even came out simply because of the title, the change from Hansel and Gretel to Gretel and Hansel. We've known that men's egos are so delicate, but until that moment I didn't realize, I guess, quite how delicate they were until that whole debacle happened, and makes me laugh just thinking about it. Next on my list is I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which follows a young nurse who takes care of an elderly author who lives in a haunted house. This movie feels like what reading a Shirley Jackson novel feels like, which makes sense because I feel like the author Lily is taking care of, Iris Bloom, is very clearly based off of Jackson to an extent, especially when they show her younger self in the movie. There's no way that wasn't Shirley Jackson. I feel like she's the queen of like the deeply emotionally disturbing stories. But this movie is Perkins's slowest of slow burns, and a lot of people dislike this movie because it is super slow and not a lot happens, and I can't disagree with that. But as the nature of interpreting art goes, I enjoy it. Sitting home alone with my phone away and everything quiet makes watching this so incredibly scary. It's one of those movies that makes you hyper aware of all the bumps and creaks that your house makes. And because it's so slow and the movie is quite quiet, you can hear all the noises your house is making while you're watching this movie, and it just makes it extra scary. It's like a 4D experience that I didn't ask for. I also really like the movie's simplicity and the almost romantic way that Perkins regards the dead and haunted houses. Their narration throughout the movie makes this feel like a poem, like a love poem to haunted spaces. And honestly, it's like, it's scary, but it's really beautiful at the same time. Next on my ranking is Longlegs. And in case you haven't seen it yet, the movie follows Special Agent Lee Harker, who is trying to catch the serial killer Longlegs, but she discovers she may be more connected to the case than anybody anticipated. I'll link my full review above if you want to hear my thoughts on it. I think that's a spoiler-filled video. It'll say in the title. But in short, I really enjoyed the disquieting tone of this movie, it just felt like something horrible was gonna happen in every single scene. Like, they really put the panic in Satanic Panic. And I know that people were split on Cage's performance as Longlegs, some finding it funny, but I was in the other camp. I thought he was so unsettling. Like, if he showed up to my house like that, I immediately run away screaming. I would not stick around for that. I would not go back into my house and think I was safe after interacting with him. So that means my number one pick, my ultimate favorite Osgood Perkins movie so far, is The Blackcoat's Daughter. The movie has a split timeline. One follows two boarding school students who are stranded at the school during winter break, and the other follows a troubled young woman who has just escaped from a psychiatric hospital and hitches a ride with an older couple. And this is one you don't want spoiled for you before you go in, so if you haven't seen it yet, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about what happens at the end, and if you intend on watching this movie, I would just go watch it and make sure you don't get it spoiled for you. But this movie is bleak from the first scene and does not let up at all. This is a movie I've recommended to friends, and they usually come back with either anger that I suggested something so disturbing, or they ask me if I'm okay. And granted, these are non-horror friends I'm recommending this to, so I guess that reaction makes sense. So if you liked Longlegs and you still haven't seen The Blackcoat's Daughter, I really recommend this one. I feel like they have very similar satanic themes, and the movie has so much rewatch value. There are tiny details in every scene that basically lay out everything that happens. The atmosphere is so thick, it stayed with me. It hung over me like a really super weighted blanket. From the first watch of this, I've not stopped thinking about it. It always finds a way to like creep back up in my mind. It is so good, so good. So I really can't wait to see Perkins's next movie, The Monkey, which, speaking of, if anyone has read the short story from Stephen King that this is based on, let me know in the comments if it's worth reading. All right, so now it's your turn. What did you think of my rankings? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How would you rank these movies differently? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're hungry for more horror movie analysis, stay tuned for my next video, in which I'll be talking about the latest movie from a fascinating family of filmmakers that were responsible for Hellbender. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Until then, stay strange. Bye.